An extreme and potentially historic winter storm is set to impact parts of the U.S. this weekend. Here's what to expect for your area. Alrighty guys, the first thing we are going to do is show the European model, which is the most accurate right now compared to much of the other models. It's really handling this storm to the best extent. This storm is really going to develop here with this high pressure that is really going to develop across the Texas Panhandle on Saturday morning. And this is going to really start to strengthen with some freezing rain developing here Saturday morning across parts of Oklahoma, Texas, and Arkansas, and then some very heavy snow developing across Oklahoma and Kansas. And this is going to spread significantly on Saturday throughout the evening and afternoon hours, and then will really strengthen Saturday night too, with some ice spreading into Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, Texas, Oklahoma here on Saturday at 6 p.m. and some very heavy snow developing in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois here in the afternoon to evening hours. And then this is going to really extremely strengthen once we get into the Saturday night into Sunday morning hours, where we're going to see that very bulk heavy snow develop with extreme ice across parts of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina here Sunday morning, and Tennessee and Virginia regions, also impacting even Louisiana, Texas, and Arkansas with more and more ice and sleet Sunday morning, and then some extremely heavy snow in Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, and even getting into the Northeast here Sunday morning. And then this is going to spread further into the Northeast with some very heavy snow into the afternoon and evening hours on Sunday, and then we'll slowly spread out and taper off most of the U.S. by Monday in the afternoon hours. But definitely some very heavy snow that will also be impacting parts of the Northeast on Sunday too, with some ice impacts near Washington, D.C., and parts of Virginia and North Carolina. Now we're going to really get into the totals, the specifics for each of your regions that is going to be impacted by this winter storm. The first thing we are looking at is the freezing rain accumulation, which will probably be the most impactful and the most dangerous due to the fact that it causes extreme measures. I mean, terrible roadways, ice everywhere. It's horrible. Trees can get damaged. They can fall down. There can be extreme power outages. You'll be stuck in your home for weeks. It all sucks. So that's why we're really going to show this. And this is going to be a very high impactful ice storm with a lot of ice, especially in parts of the deep south. Look at this map. Just a huge amount of ice impacting all these southern states that don't handle ice very well either. So the first area we're going to look at is Oklahoma. Much of Oklahoma could see some ice. The northern parts are going to see more snow, but the southern parts of Oklahoma could see some ice with around 1/4 inch of ice. Now for parts of Texas, we are going to see a lot more of a spread of ice due to the fact that is further south, so we'll be seeing a lot of ice and less snow. There's going to be a huge amount of ice with this. It's showing Dallas, Texas, potentially a 1/2 inch of ice, potentially more or potentially less, but a 1/2 inch of ice in Dallas, Texas, so a huge amount of ice in parts of these regions. Even as far south as Austin, Texas, seeing almost 1/4 inch of ice, so a lot of ice is coming to parts of Texas. Now for parts of Louisiana, we're going to see a ton of ice from this system. Northern Louisiana looks like a bullseye with 1 inch of ice, literally 1 inch of ice being forecast in northern Louisiana. Shreveport, nearly 1 inch of ice. That is going to be extremely treacherous, maybe even catastrophic. That is some extreme crippling ice impacts in the parts of northern Louisiana that's going to be impacted. Then portions of Arkansas, the northern part of Arkansas is going to see more of a snowfall impact from this system, but the southern part of Arkansas is definitely going to see some ice, with potentially, the further south you go, the more ice, but potentially southern Arkansas could definitely see up to 1/4 inch of ice from this system. Now, if we get more into sorry, I didn't show Mississippi there, but if we look at Mississippi real quick, Mississippi is also in a bullseye of ice, with northern Mississippi, with areas like Tupelo, seeing 1 inch of ice. 1 inch of ice is being forecasted in Tupelo. This is extremely treacherous, extremely dangerous. So really get prepared now. Get all your food. Make sure you are ready for power outages, as this is going to be really extreme across parts of northern Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi, it's really on the border there, but this is showing potentially up to 1/4 inch of ice, but some extreme ice totals in northern parts of Mississippi. And then Memphis, Tennessee, we're looking at potentially up to a quarter of an inch of ice, potentially more, depending on how far this shifts north or south. That's why it is very uncertain with this freezing rain, because of those shifts that we are seeing in the models. But a quarter of an inch of ice is definitely possible there in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, if we go to parts of the central portion of Tennessee in northern Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina regions, we're looking at potentially up to a quarter of an inch of ice, potentially, in Nashville, Tennessee. So that's going to be a lot of ice, definitely more than was originally forecasted. Parts of Kentucky, we're also looking at some ice accumulations, up to half an inch of ice in parts of southern Kentucky and southeastern Kentucky regions. So definitely a lot of ice that's going to be predicted. Then northern Georgia, we're also going to see a lot of ice. Parts of northern Georgia, we're looking at potentially up to a half an inch of ice in more of those higher elevation regions down in northeastern Georgia. But a little bit further south, we're looking at potentially a quarter of an inch to maybe up to a half an inch of ice in these regions where they're predicting that ice accumulation that could definitely occur. Parts of South Carolina, we're also going to see a lot of ice with this system, with potentially up to a half an inch of ice. Columbia, South Carolina, we're looking at up to a quarter of an inch of ice. So a lot of ice accumulation is going to be occurring from these regions. If we go into more areas in northern parts of North Carolina and South Carolina, we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of ice accretion impacts from this. Raleigh, North Carolina, we're looking at a quarter to a half an inch of ice. Charlotte, North Carolina, getting closer to a half an inch of ice. Areas closer to Asheville, we're looking at over a half an inch of ice. So extreme ice impacts are coming to these regions. Further north, parts of Virginia could also see, and southern Virginia could also see a lot of ice with this system. This is going to be very, very, very dangerous system that is going to occur with a ton of extreme ice accumulations. That is not going to be fun with this system here. Definitely looking extremely dangerous. Anywhere that you are seeing in these colored areas, prepare now. Extreme ice is coming. Now, these snow totals are definitely also a bit uncertain, but we are going to show the snow total prediction on the National Blend of Models, which basically blends all of the models together to get the most accurate prediction. And this model tends to be a little conservative, but with this winter storm, it's definitely not being conservative. It is showing some hefty snow totals with this system. Any shifts, the reason this is so uncertain is you see this little tight area of the heaviest snowfall. If this shifts north or south, any little ticks north or south really change the snowfall totals a lot, because there's going to be ice and sleet with this. So if that ice and sleet moves north, then there's less snow in your area. If the ice and sleet moves south, then there's more snow in your area. So people on the border right there, like Oklahoma City, is really uncertain. But the first thing we're going to talk about is Kansas and Oklahoma. We do have a huge bullseye of snowfall in Kansas and Oklahoma. This is showing Wichita, Kansas gets nearly a foot of snow, which is absolutely crazy. I'd say more of an accurate depiction would be around 8 to 12 inches for Wichita, Kansas. Oklahoma City, we're right on that border. If it sleets or freezing rain more, then it will be less of snow totals, but it's definitely pretty hard to forecast. But for Oklahoma City, I'm going to do more of a range and say more like 7 to 13 inches of snow for Oklahoma City. Maybe less, maybe more like 6 to 12 inches of snow for Oklahoma City in the forecast. Now, southern Missouri, we're looking at a lot of snowfall. Areas close to Springfield, we're looking at around 10 inches of snow potentially in the forecast. So definitely a lot of snow is going to be occurring across much of these areas. Dallas, Texas, it's not looking like much snow, maybe around 1 inch to 2 inches. More of a freezing rain event for Dallas, Texas. For Little Rock, Arkansas, we're right on that border between the freezing rain and snow, but it's definitely downtrended. So I'm thinking more like maybe 2 to 4 inches of snow, maybe a little bit more in that region. And then Memphis, Tennessee, we're looking at maybe 2 to 4 inches of snow, maybe 1 to 3 inches of snow would be a little more accurate due to that freezing rain potential that we could see. Nashville, Tennessee, it's definitely downtrended a lot more in Nashville due to the fact that freezing rain will come through. But for Nashville, we're looking at potentially here around 1 to 3 inches of snow, maybe less depending on if they get more ice. But a sleet bomb, I'll tell you what, Nashville's going to get a lot of sleet. So that sleet will definitely accumulate. This is more of a snowfall forecast, less of a sleet forecast. Now, Amarillo, Texas, and the Texas Panhandle, I forgot to mention that, but Amarillo, Texas, we're looking at around 5 to 7 inches of snow possibly. But yeah, northern Kansas, central in northern Oklahoma, huge amount of snow coming for that region. If we go into the Ohio Valley now, looking like Kansas City is looking to be in definitely some hefty snow totals, and Kansas City regions. We could be in the potential for maybe 7 to 10 inches of snow in Kansas City, which is a similar story for St. Louis, Missouri, where I'm going more for the forecast of 8 to 12 inches, maybe 7 to 11 inches of snow would be more of a better forecast statement. In a lot of these areas, it could be locally higher amounts in St. Louis. We could see up to a foot of snow, maybe more. But if I was being more conservative and showing you that, that's what I would mostly say for my forecast. This shows around 9 inches of snow in St. Louis. And then areas further south, looking at Paducah, we're looking at around 10 to 12 inches of snow, maybe 10 to 14 inches of snow possible there. Evansville, we're looking at a lot of snow, potentially 9 to 15 inches possible. Indianapolis, it's definitely right on that border between areas that get less snow and more snow due to the dry air that will be shooting up from the system, but it's definitely shifted a lot more north recently in Indianapolis. We are predicting probably around 6 to 8 inches of snow, maybe 6 to 10 inches of snow potentially in Indianapolis, maybe more. It's definitely uptrended a lot in that area. Cincinnati, we're in a big bullseye in Cincinnati, up to a foot of snow potentially in Cincinnati. We're looking at here Louisville, 10 to 12, maybe 10 to 14 inches of snow. A lot of snow is coming in that area for a lot of these areas. So Columbus, Ohio, we're also looking at 10 to 12 inches of snow potentially in that region. So a lot of snow that's coming towards these areas. Washington, D.C., right on that border between the freezing rain, sleet that will mix into that snow, but we are looking at the potential for around 10 inches of snow. But this area up in Virginia and West Virginia are going to get insane amounts of snow from the system. Cleveland, Ohio, we're looking at 8 inches of snow is probably the most accurate prediction I would say for that region. So definitely a lot of snow is going to be impacting many of these areas. Now, if we go towards the northeast, we're seeing a huge amount of snowfall on the blend of models, guys, showing this much dang snowfall. This shows New York City gets 19 inches of snow. That is nuts. Almost 20 inches of snow is what it's showing. If I'd be more conservative, I'd probably go 12 to 20 inches of snow, a broader thing, 12 to 20 inches. I do think they're going to get a foot, but I want to be a little bit more broader because this is definitely a very high-end signal, and it's definitely possible. It might not happen either. So, but for the most accurate thing, I'd say 14 inches possible in New York City. But due to that, the models are trending towards a little bit of mixing and potentially freezing rain in New York City, so that could downtrend our snow a little bit in New York City. So if I'd be more accurate, I'd say closer to a foot. But yeah, and then northern areas, Boston, this is showing 23 inches in Boston. That is nuts. I'd say more like a foot, 12 to 22 inches of snow potentially. It's a broad range, maybe 14 to 22 inches there. Springfield, Massachusetts, and areas like Hartford, Connecticut, and Providence, I'd say for all those regions, 12 to 18 inches of snow, potentially even more in that area. Locally higher amounts. So a lot of snow is coming for these areas. A lot. Philadelphia, 17 inches of snow potentially here. 12 to 18 inches of snow probably in Philadelphia. So a lot of snow. Anywhere in these darker colors are going to get absolutely hammered with snowfall totals. If you can see your area in there, it's looking like a lot of snow that is coming. That's going to cause some treacherous conditions. Alrighty, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. This is basically just a video mainly on this winter storm, this extremely major winter storm that's about to impact much of the central, southern, and eastern U.S. with extreme ice accumulation, sleet, and extreme snow accumulation too. Very rare snow accumulation for a lot of these areas, like northern Oklahoma. 13 inches of snow? What the heck? Absolutely wild coming in. Remember to stay safe and stay off those roads. If you're in any of these areas I showed, stay off the roads all weekend. And prepare now. Get ready so you are ready when the weather comes. Thanks for watching and have an amazing day, everybody.